Welcome, everybody, to TRB Live. That's right. This is the Resistance broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode, a very special episode, because this is our winter 2024 edition of the State of Star Wars. But the first time, I believe, I'm not an archivist of this podcast, the first time I believe we've ever done the State of Star Wars live. So it should be very interesting with comments from the chat and even seeing what we're getting into. And of course, Ask the Resistance live later, maybe even based on stuff we talk about. But we're glad you're here. I'm John. With me as always, James and Lacey. James back in the mix, feeling better, back on the horse, or whatever they call a horse in Star Wars. What were those things in the Rise of Skywalker? Oh, well, Fathier in Last Jedi, but I was thinking about those horses that they had on the Star Destroyers.
Yeah.
Orbaks?
Orbaks.
Yeah.
Orbaks. And Lacey Gilleran, as always, in the mix, back at it. So it's good to see both of you. And we have a lot to talk about on this episode. Now, we don't share notes about how we feel about the State of Star Wars. So what you're going to see on this episode is pretty organic, and going to be the first time we each hear our thoughts as how we feel about the franchises standing today. But we also have Ask the Resistance later. So if you do have questions you want on the show, use in the chat, hashtag Ask the Resistance for your question. And of course, super chats, light speed you right to the top of the list. And it supports the show. So thank you for those. But more importantly, we hope you have a good time. Whether you're listening on your favorite podcast app or you're with us live on YouTube or watching after on YouTube, thank you very much for being with us today. Tell your friends. Spread the word. TRB is a good time. If you like Star Wars and you like having a good time, we're a good place to be. All right. So, James and Lacey, let's get into this first thing before the State of Star Wars.
Can I say one thing quickly?
Yes, you can. A few things if you want to. Yes.
I'm not an archivist of TRB, but I'm pretty sure we did the State of Star Wars live in the fall because I requested to do it live because I was going through the baby stuff. So I'd requested, can we do it live so I could be a part of it?
So we've already done it live? All right.
In the fall.
I guess we did a good job. All right.
So good that you don't remember.
I don't remember what I had for lunch today. So this is the second live State of Star Wars. And what's better in Star Wars than the second? Empire Strikes Back, Attack of the Clones, Mando.
The second one is always the best.
Yeah.
Is it
No, I know. That's what John is saying. I'm just teasing him.
Trying. All right. Already caught once. Okay. Well, now the rest of my performance tonight's gonna be flawless, so that's great.
I only know that because I asked specifically for that. I requested
special request. All right.
Cool. Yeah.
All right. We do need like an archivist. We've had 8,000 episodes of this podcast, so we are coming up on 700 though. But for this episode tonight, we're gonna start things off once again by talking about Daisy Ridley, and it's always a gift when a Star Wars actor of past and obviously now future as well is working on another movie, because they will always be asked about Star Wars. And Josh Horowitz pulled no punches and got in it with Daisy Ridley on his podcast. Talked about the feedback to The Rise of Skywalker, how she was upset by the reaction, but it didn't change how she felt about it. She enjoyed the movie. She enjoyed the experience. But there was one specific thing he wanted to ask her about, and I believe we're going to take an actual look and listen at what was talked about.
Nope, sorry.
The
no
one
sound.
Specific thing I wanted to ask about for the Rise of Skywalker, where were you at on the kiss moment? Were you like, this is going to work, or like, are we really doing this?
Well, we did one without.
Yeah.
Where was I with it?
And do you remember where Adam was? Like, was everybody in sync? Like, okay, like, or we're just going to try this. If it works in the edit, great.
Adam had to like rap and literally got up from that scene, which was like so emotional and everything. Was like, bye guys, I'm going to New York. So that was.
Yeah, he literally kissed you off. But...
Yeah, he was like, see you later. Yeah. I felt like it felt earned.
Yeah.
And what was interesting, again, I think it's like intentionality. My feeling in that moment was it was a goodbye.
Yeah.
So that felt earned. Because, I mean, you could call a kiss 1,000 things, but I felt like it was a goodbye. And that whole scene felt so emotional. And I felt like I was saying goodbye to the job. And,
Oh my God, yeah.
And then actually we had to pick up something that was missed. So on my very, very, very last, in fact, no one knows this. On my very, very, very last day, and we were doing various pickups and stuff, I had to literally sit and look, and the camera was like coming away from me, and I would guess I was looking at him. And JJ was like, "You good?" Literally immediately started like crying my eyes out because it really felt like goodbye. Yeah.
Wow. All right. So, Lacey, you were a big proponent. We're going to start with you. You were a big proponent of the romance between Kylo Ren, Rey, Ben Solo, whatever you want to say. What are your thoughts on how she reviewed it, and the fact that they also did a version without a kiss, and in addition to the other reveal she had at the end about the pickup shots? What are your thoughts on all this?
I think Daisy's very good at handling the press. I think Daisy does a really good job giving answers that don't get her in trouble, that doesn't upset anybody. She's always very middle of the road. She says yes and no. She did this with the whole kind of, when she was on, I think it was either Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon, one of the two. And she was asked about like the Kenobi stuff and all that, and she was kind of just like, "Oh, that's what it was, but I'm happy with where it's going." Like, she's just very middle of the road. My thoughts here are that it doesn't surprise me that they did both takes, because it seems like from what everybody said, including J.J. Abrams, they were making a lot of changes up until the last minute. I mean, they had Adam Driver recording lines in a closet in New York City after he had pieced out. So it's not surprising that they did multiple takes with two different outcomes. I'm sure that happens all the time in the movies, and I'm sure people have actually talked about that before, of not knowing what ending they're going to go with. That being said, I think for me, I agree with her that it was earned. I think that everybody knew it was coming in a sense, but I don't think it was handled well, because saying that you knew it was a goodbye is not true, because Rey didn't know that he was going to die. Like, he didn't say anything. It's not like he's like, "I gave you my life force. I love you. Bye." Like, he didn't say anything. He just died. So it's kind of hard to argue for it felt like a goodbye. Now, from her perspective as the person in the movie, and this is one of the last scenes they recorded together, yes, that is a goodbye. That's a goodbye to Adam. That's a goodbye to their experience together. I don't know how I feel about her saying, "Oh, it's a goodbye to these two characters," because how was the character going to know that he was supposed to die? She looks very shocked when he disappears, because it's also been called a thank you. So I don't know. Is it a thank you? Is it a goodbye?
Is this the first time we've heard goodbye?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought
We've
so
heard
too, but
thank
I
you
was like,
before.
man, surely someone's encountered this before.
Did she say thank you? Who said thank you? Someone said it was a thank
JJ.
you. JJ said it was a kiss of thank you. Or
No,
Kathleen,
the novelist of The Rise of Skywalker wrote it in the book as though it was a kiss of gratitude.
I apologize. Yes.
And she was torn apart by a certain section of fans.
It was JJ that said it was
rightfully
a friendly
so. I'm
kiss
sorry.
then,
That's a
right?
weird. Yes, because it's a weird thing to be like, "Someone saves your life, let me make out with you." Like, that's just a weird thing to say. Like, the goodbye to me makes more sense. Like, she's like, "Oh, this is coming to an end. I love you, kiss." Like, it doesn't mean like, "Hey, thanks for doing this."
Imagine what would have happened if Daisy answered that question with, "I approached it as we're going to get married," or something. Like,
oh,
like,
man.
yeah.
Well,
it would have
if
been
this
wild.
She's like sitting there like, if you think about what the Force could do, I could be pregnant. Like, it's like all this.
Well,
like, no, don't say that.
Yeah, the funny thing about that, though, is that she also knew. So this is why I'm saying it's from her perspective, because she did know it was a goodbye, because if Adam wrapped and left, she knows that Adam's not in that last celebration scene where everyone's like, "Hooray, we did it. High fives, hugs. Yay. We defeated the bad people." Like, she knows he's not there because he had to go back to New York. So I just feel like the goodbye is coming from a sense of her own perspective and not necessarily from Rey's, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I hate to go back and rewatch the clip, but is she sort of saying like she felt this way from her as a person because I believe the question
That's
was
how I
aimed
kinda
at, like,
took
how
it.
do you feel about the
I
kiss
took it
happening
as
in character
I took it
wise?
as for her. She filmed it with the mindset that Ray was doing it as a goodbye. That's how I took
Character
it.
wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it could be taken
Which
either
di-
way, and that's where it
which
makes it a little tricky.
I know, and Lacey brings up a good point. It's like it really doesn't make sense as a goodbye because unless it's something like where she knows that she's only alive because he gave his life force. Like that, like she just got brought back to life and she's like, "Oh my god, he just gave me his life force."
She's
And it's
sensing
not
it.
stated on as so, but
But
maybe
she looks
that's
so
what
shocked
the
when he
direction of this
dies.
shit. I know, yeah.
Like,
Well,
she
I
looks
mean,
genuinely, like, shocked.
even if you know it's gonna happen, you're there in the moment the person's alive, you just kiss them, and then the person dies. It
It
still could be
also
shocking.
and I'm not gonna sit here and say Daisy Ridley's like lying or anything like that, but she's also very smart. And like Lacey, you said, like she knows how to handle the media. I think she also knows the temperature of the fan base and certain things that people are very passionate about. And if she said anything to the effect of, I thought it was going to be happily ever after, I thought, Ray thought it was going to be happily ever after, people would have been sending more death threats to J.J. Abrams, who she loves. So
here's the thing. They
she could have
kiss.
come with a safer answer, which is, I thought it was a goodbye,
Sure, but they kiss, they smile at each other, and they're, like, touching each other's faces like, "We did it." And then he dies, and she falls backwards, and then she's like, "Wait, what?" And then he disappears. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm like, okay, but then if you're saying it's a goodbye, which again, it's her perspective, it doesn't make sense that they'd be like, "Oh my god, we did it. Smile, smile, smile. Oh wait, what's happening?"
Yeah, I think she might have just been skating safely in answering this
I
question.
think so too.
Yeah.
But it's not the wrong answer either.
Do you
Right.
guys subscribe to Thank You? Do you think that's where you're at as far as what makes
I
sense
don't
for
know
the story?
why would Ray kiss him like that as a thank you? I don't know.
If she's thanking him, she's got to kiss Finn. She's got to kiss Luke Skywalker. She's
Like, isn't a kiss on the cheek is more of a thank you?
Yes. Like,
Yeah.
if you think about movies in the past, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. Probably, I think it happens in Goonies or something. Yeah, Goonies, where they get to the end and he gets the kiss on the cheek as someone like from the girl of the movie that's like not his girlfriend, but
Mhm.
it's like the girl he idolizes. She gives him a kiss on the cheek and he's like, "Yay, I did it."
Mhm.
Yeah, the way I sort of take it is like because of Last Jedi, it makes it very much seem like there is a romantic tension between the two of them. And I think when she's in that moment and for the past like year, all she's thinking about was, "Oh my god, I really like that person, but he's so bad, and I wish he would freaking switch sides." When he finally does switch sides and they defeat everything, and she's caught up in that moment, she's like, "This is it. He did it, and we're here, and everything, and like maybe this is the sign that we are supposed to be together or something." So she is romantically attracted to him. So she leans in, she kisses him, and he's like, cool, because he's probably to some degree thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
But and then when you wrap that up, it's like, if that exact scenario happened to me, I like, how do you phrase that in a non-awkward way?
Unless,
like, I was just so happy that we did it together,
unless the kiss was so bad for him that it killed him.
Yeah.
He looked like he enjoyed it very much.
It's like Romeo and Juliet.
I'm
Like
just
the
kidding
poison
around.
on the lips was just enough to.
It's like Padme died from sadness and Ben Solo died from a bad kiss. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I don't know. I think she was playing it safe because I think if she said anything that touches happily ever after, there would have been pitchforks outside of J.J. Abrams' house. But But I like that, she's talking about it. I like that she was defending the movie. I like that she said she disagreed. It didn't change her point of view on the movie. But that she was upset that she felt like she may have let people down. She's just very earnest, and she's just very easy to root for, And so in the end of that, out of all of this, that's how my takeaway from Daisy anyway. Any other thoughts on that before we really kick things off?
I just truly appreciate how Daisy Ridley's willing to. She's not afraid of silence. Like she's willing to sit there and be like, "Let me think about this while I give you an actual good
She always
answer."
does the look up. Yeah.
Yeah, she's done
She
that.
even said
with a
in that,
couple
she goes,
commercials
"How
and stuff.
did I feel?" Like,
Like I don't
"Mm,
think
have to go back."
she rushes to whatever the PR answer is or whatever the easy answer is. I think she genuinely thinks about questions that are asked,
I bet
which I appreciate.
I'm not a body language, expert, and those people are like so good at what they do. But when he asked her, her eyes darted down to the left as though like when you are uncomfortable. I think she probably doesn't love being asked
Isn't up to the left lying? That's what the FBI says. Like if
up
you
to the left. She
think-
looked down to the left, which to me she just looked like it was like, oh no. This question.
I
Yeah,
feel like
think-
that is a thing. The up to the left one, Lacey. I think that's one of those things that they have like they said or we all knew, and then they've since like dismissed. Like, no, that is not true. That's not accurate.
maybe.
I don't know, but definitely there is body language stuff.
Google tells me that glancing to your left, immediately glancing to your left suggests you were remembering facts or having visual thoughts. So she was thinking back. She was reflecting.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
Yeah, the only we didn't, you mentioned it very quickly, John, but like defending the movies, like I did think that was kind of interesting to watch her reaction to like how someone like ourselves, like we like the Star Wars movies. We know there are people who really hate them, but generally if people ask us like, what do you think of the Star Wars movies? I'm like, well, I think the fan reception is The Force Awakens was kind of accepted, like, wow, that was actually pretty good. And then the second one, very divisive. The third one, very divisive,
Mhm.
And it's like, I just liked her real answer because she did state that it doesn't change her opinion of the films.
Yeah.
But it was really cool to see that she is aware that, like, yeah, I think that's exactly how it was. It was just,
I think
she's not like completely in the blind, like, I know it sucks that everybody hated it. It's like, no, not everybody hated it, And if she said the opposite, like, oh, we're really proud of the movies. We love it. We're glad there are so many fans out there that love it too. And it's like, well, you got to be aware of both. And I think she really drew the line perfectly. It's like, yeah, I think that's pretty much universally how it is.
I think
John
Boyega and Daisy Ridley specifically, we know others, Eunice Huthart called JJ the love of her life, I think those two are ride or die JJ. Like they will never speak poorly of him. They will defend him.
He gave them their break, basically.
Yeah. And I think that they both favor his movies over 8, not to say, anything about 8 in a bubble or in a vacuum or anything like that. But I think they are JJ people based on interviews and stuff. But anyway, it is it is time for the second time live, get into
Apparently.
the state of Star Wars. So let's fire up that discussion.
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
All right. Every season, we like to take the time we have on the podcast to have an open discussion about the state of the franchise. So now it is time for the winter 2024 edition of the State of Star Wars. We usually don't start with toys, but I gotta say that the email we got showing the new Hasbro stuff is what I've been hoping they would do forever, which is 4-inch figures, moderately priced, that parents would be willing to buy for their kids and have enough that you could buy a few so they could actually make a story and play with them. And it's called like the Epic Hero version, Lacey. I forget what it's called, but
Yep, it's called the Epic Hero series. I can give you a little info.
Series. Yeah.
So Hasbro Star Wars Galaxy of Toys expanding in 2024 with the new 4-inch Epic Hero series figures on shelves now. The line kicks off in the spring with an iconic lineup of favorite characters inspired by the films, series, and stories that have captured imaginations for nearly 50 years. Each figure in this Epic Hero series assortment comes with their signature accessory. Kids looking, so this is definitely tailored towards kids. Kids looking to gear up their figures a little more can purchase the deluxe Epic Heroes figures like Paz Vizsla. So right now they have the Mandalorian, Darth Vader, Grogu, Luke Skywalker, Ahsoka Tano, Stormtrooper, Paz Vizsla, and Sabine Wren. And they all are $9.99. That's right, $9.99. And the deluxe versions are $14.99, which is absolutely reasonable for parents and people that are going to Target with their children to be like, yep, you could pick out one toy. It's not going to break the bank.
Right.
I was pumped when I got this email from Hasbro. I was like, finally. I've been saying this with roundtables to them. Like, I specifically asked them a question like, how are you getting children into collecting about 2-3 roundtables ago? And they were saying how, they always consider younger fans. So hopefully this has been in the kind of pipeline for a while now, but it's nice to know that they are listening to fans, because the three of us and me in the roundtables have been saying this to Hasbro.
Yeah. And it's, looking at the packaging, like the first thing I noticed when I opened up the high res images, I'm like, this looks like inviting. It looks like, Black Series are cool. And I know people collected them forever, and it looks like everyone tried to just sell off their collections. I don't know, but it's dark, and it doesn't feel fun.
It's black and red. Yeah.
They almost look expensive. And these look like toys.
These look like, they're vibrant colors. They're bright. They remind me of the Power of the Force. They're the same size. So if you have old Power of the Force figures, or you buy a lot of them on Facebook, you can buy a couple of these and actually play with them. And they're the same size. I think this is the move. And I don't know why they've waited so long for this. So I wanted to just start there. We don't have to spend too much time on it, but I think it's the best move Hasbro's made in a very long time. And it's so funny because it's just sort of a back to basics type of thing. And I think sometimes when there's pressure on a company and they just keep trying to come up with the next new thing, as opposed to being what worked before. And it seems like they're finally going back to that. And I hope this is a sign of things to come, because this is the way not to use for this is the way, but I agree, Lacey. This is the way to get kids back in the mix. Parents will be more willing to spend, maybe buy 2 or 3 of these instead of one Black Series figure, So I think it's the move.
Yeah, my one concern is that they're all available this spring at Walmart exclusively, which I understand the appeal there, because there's many Walmarts in the US for people to get these from. But at the same time, I know collectors have not had good kind of times with Walmart getting figures, because they either run out of them or they don't have, they can't find them. So I'm just hoping that these being kind of affordable figures, they're not all snatched up by all the collectors. I'm sure there's enough to go around, but I just hope that some of these do make it into the hands of some kids.
I don't like the exclusive thing. I don't like that.
I have a friend who's a toy guy, and he's like, I hate that I have to do this, but the only way to get toys is to make friends with people at Target. And it's
it's funny you say that, James, because I am not kidding. When I was looking for the Star Wars Destiny figure dolls, which I have them all, and I've been holding on to them because Daisy will eventually get old enough to play with them. When I went to go find them at Target, I remember I went to kind of the toy section, which is next to the electronic section. And I went to the electronic guy because they are supposed to be out. And I said, hey, do you happen to have these dolls? And he has one of those little key fob things, or the little scanner that they carry around. So he looked it up on a scanner and he goes, yeah, we actually have them. They're in the back. And he goes, let me go get some for you, or go find one. So I'm standing there waiting, and he comes back with this guy who's the toy guy, the toy area guy. And I guess the toy guy doesn't realize that I'm the person that's waiting for this. He just assumes he's coming into the area. He doesn't know I'm the person. And he literally out loud goes, you're not supposed to tell them when we have toys, to the electronics person, who I'm assuming is a newer guy. He was also very friendly. So I'm assuming he's new because he hasn't been broken down by the general public yet. He was very nice and friendly, but the toy guy was out loud was don't tell them when we have stuff. Don't
they
tell
are
them.
I saw it in the chat, Lacey, Andrew Staley. Oh, what's up, buddy? They're on Amazon, and they are. You can all get them.
Oh, perfect. So I apologize, Andrew. I'm reading from their press release that they sent us. So it says available exclusively at Walmart.
Yeah, you can pop in there, fire up. You can get Paz Vizsla on Prime.
Perfect.
That Paz Vizsla is awesome.
Yeah. We may have to.
He's got
snatch
flames
we may
coming
have
out
to
the
snatch
back
some
and
of these
stuff.
up for a giveaway or something. These are.
I
cool.
would love that. I would
Yeah.
love that, but only a kid can win.
Oh yes, yeah.
All our listeners are like, "Shut up, Lacey."
They're gonna be like, "Hi, first time listener of TRB."
Well, people have kids, but yeah, no, James, I totally agree with you. It's bizarre that like you have to be in, especially like with stuff like this where they get these collectibles from Target, and I'll never forget like with The Last Jedi how cutthroat it was with these scalpers for
This is
that
unbelievable.
midnight sale where I went, and I remember I went to get like a couple figures for people. They weren't even for me. And I got physically shoved out of the way by a dude to get
Really?
these figures. To get the Executioner Stormtrooper, I got shoved out of the way. Yeah.
You know what? I'm looking at the Darth Vader one, and it's just like the simplicity of it. Like the cover, all it says is Darth Vader. It doesn't say like Darth Vader with super, extended lightsaber. It's just like it's Darth Vader, and then on the back, it's like that classic like description of what the character's about. It's just back to basics, and I think these are going to do well, and they look great.
I like the art. The art, the
This is it.
packaging looks really great.
This is they finally got it. But Hasbro, I've been dumping on you for years. Bravo. I love it.
Hasbro,
More
I
of
have
that.
not been dumping on you, and bravo.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So anything else on toys before we open things up to other thoughts on what's going on with Star Wars?
Not really. I mean, I look forward to seeing what comes this year with once we get a little bit more info on what I think the streaming outlook is. I think once we get that idea, which is what Hasbro kind of bases their release schedule on, we'll get a better understanding of what's coming, what's to come.
Yeah. I mean, if this is the sign of things to come, then things are looking good. So I know they've been under a lot of heat lately, and there's been rumors of, issues with cuts and, all that. So if this is their Hail Mary, they got a touchdown, in my opinion. So
when I looked on Amazon, it looks like they also have a Marvel version of this, the Epic Hero series. What I'm saying is like the packaging was very similar and the characters look kind of similar, art style and stuff too. So I imagine that they probably tried this with Marvel first, actually, or because I don't think it was announced at the same time. But
I think they're seeing the same trends across fandoms.
But like
where
it
you
worked.
have kids that want superhero figures, and they're getting kind of bought out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Very good there. Now on to other thoughts on the state of Star Wars. Obviously, we have a little bit more of an understanding of what's going on with the movies. Since we did the last State of Star Wars a few months ago, obviously we have the Mandalorian and the Grogu movie announced, and that is going to be the next Star Wars movie. So I'll just say overall, I'm feeling more positive. I know I believe in the fall I had a positive outlook as well, but now even more so because of the movies. And anytime movies are ahead of us for Star Wars, and I know what people are going to say, like, well, we don't know if they're actually going to make these or what, and I understand that. I'm sticking with my optimism here, especially with Jon Favreau, that Mandalorian and Grogu movie is going to be happening and is going to be coming out in 2 years. So that always just makes me feel better as a Star Wars fan. I think Star Wars fandom also is really healthy when we get to have fun speculating on things about the movies, or if like a toy comes out or a Lego series comes out, and what if there's a Lego series and someone catches something about a new ship that the Mandalorian's going to have. That type of stuff is what brings people together. So I think that Mando movie coming out, Favreau at the helm, has really vaulted my confidence in the return to theaters. And that in general, just Star Wars getting back into movies and into the theaters is making me feel good about the state of the franchise. How about you guys?
Go ahead,
Me? Actually, I feel a little differently.
Shocker.
Well, I think that if you're asking me to be confident in Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm as far as like they know what they're doing and they're handling things properly, I like it when there's mystery and we don't know what's going on. And we're like, why aren't they telling us anything? And then they come out and they're like, here's what we've been working on. Boom, 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 boom. But this Mandalorian movie feels very in the background, like they don't know what they're doing. And people are like, just do something. And then they're like, I guess we'll just do a Mandalorian movie. Like, we're going to switch up the scripts and push this out first. It feels like it's not that I'm not excited to see the thing on the big screen or something along those lines, but it reads very confused and grasping at straws for something to work. And I'm excited for more content nonetheless, but an announcement like that feels very confused, and it makes it, I think it's even lowers my confidence just a little bit more with Lucasfilm,
even though it's Favreau?
Them that he doesn't have anything. I mean, he doesn't have anything to do with the decision to make the movie. That was not part of it.
Movie.
No,
he said no.
No. What I'm saying is that the people ahead of him, like, he wasn't part of that. And then they were like, we need something. Would you do a movie? And he's like, yeah, I'll do a movie. Exactly. But it's like, I know, but that's not his. He's not part of the decision making. He was asked. I don't think he came in and pitched it.
I think you're right that they came to him and he said, yes, let's do it. But if he said no, they're not making a Mandalorian movie. So it's ultimately on Favreau.
But I think that's something different than what I'm describing. I'm describing the Lucasfilm and Disney, like, planning people who are like, we know what we're doing and we have this vision, we're sticking to it. And it feels like that's kind of falling apart. And there's people saying, you need to make something work. And they're like, I guess we'll do a Mandalorian movie. Let's try it. Let's go see if John, he'd be down to do it. And it all worked out. And so they're like, yeah, we'll do that. And we'll push that out. But it feels disorganized to me. It doesn't feel like they've been really planning this for a long time and they're excited to bring it.
I don't think they've been planning for a long time.
That's my point, is it feels rushed. It feels like a random decision that is fine. I'm okay with it happening, but it doesn't boost my confidence in their ability to, like, lead and know the direction that they're going. It seems like they're like racing and trying to catch up or figure out a solution.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're being reactive more than proactive, but that's kind of been Lucasfilm's whole like mantra over the past few years, is reactive more than proactive.
Yeah.
I am super pumped for the Mando and Grogu movie. I'm overjoyed for the Rey movie. Everybody knows that. I was crying when it got announced. I'm so excited for that. The Mangled movie, I'm like, okay, cool. The Filoni movie, I think, is going to be great. I think he's really proved himself with all the stuff he's ever done, but especially with Ahsoka. I think he knocked it out of the park with that one, with that series. So I agree with James where he's coming from, or James, where you're coming from. I don't mean to talk about you in the third person, where James is coming from, in the sense of it just seems a little chaotic, because it was, the Saga series was happening, which itself was a little on the chaotic side, switching directors and writers and all these other things. And we're not sure what's going on and what the character, who's coming back, who's not coming back. We're making decisions last minute, which happens. But then going into what's next for Star Wars, it very much was, okay, Ryan's directing. Okay, Taika's directing. Okay, we're going to bring in Benioff and Weiss. No, we're not. We're also going to do a Lando series. No, we're not. We're going to actually do a movie now. It just seems very all over the place. And I think that's due to the fact that the world itself has kind of been all over the place for the past few years, between COVID, getting back from COVID, figuring what's going to happen now. Then the strikes happen, so they have to rework everything. I think the Mandalorian Grogu movie was 100% reaction to the strikes. I think they need to make money. I think they need to get into the movies sooner rather than later, and they're banking on something that they know is going to bring people in the theater.
I think the strikes could have definitely been a part of it. I just think it's Bob Iger is like, wait a minute, what are we doing? Like, I know I was the Disney Plus guy and I was leaving saying, like, here's the future and stuff, but it's like they're not making money on Star Wars on Disney Plus. And subscriber counts aren't going up. So they're like, we could either just bleed out this golden nugget we have, aka Grogu and the Mandalorian, on Disney Plus, and just hope people are subscribing for that show as we put millions and millions of dollars into producing that season, or we get a guy who's made $3 to $4 billion grossing movies and have him bring it on the big screen. So and then, like, you brought up the Lando series being made to movie. It's like, I'm just realizing now they're doing a total shift. It's not just the Mandalorian.
Right,
like,
but I'm saying that shift didn't happen until the strikes and everything, where they needed to make that shift.
I
Celebration, they had 3 movies that they were out front and center with. Favreau was there that weekend. He had his own panels. He was there for Skeleton Crew, all that other stuff.
Yeah.
They could have announced this as well, but they didn't. And they also pitched the Filoni movie as the Mandoverse culmination movie. So if they're doing a Mandoverse culmination movie, they're now doing it also a Mandalorian and Grogu movie, because someone somewhere, which I agree with you, John, I totally think it could have happened from the top bottom. Like, you know, the guy being like, hey, we need something. What are you going to do for me? And then people are scrambling to come up with something. And Favreau was like, okay, sure, I'll do it.
But
like,
ultimately,
yeah,
it doesn't matter how we got to this point.
Sure.
We found America. It's like, you know, they've been fumbling for a decade, but they landed on something good in this case. So now that we are here and that movie's being made, I don't care if it was a pivot. I don't care if it was we're just going to throw our hands up and say, Favreau, save us. It's happening. And it's Jon Favreau directing a Star Wars movie about the Mandalorian. And
yes, but we've heard this with
cool.
several other projects, John. So I think as Star Wars fans, we've all collectively been a little nervous that we're like, we'll feel better once this goes into production.
I agree.
Once this happens, once we see people on set shooting these things,
I
that's
agree.
when we're going to feel better. At this point, we can be excited for it, like James is saying, and be like, hey, and you're saying as well, John, that you're excited that these things are happening.
Yeah.
I agree. I am too.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's kind of like when you have a friend or a boyfriend or whoever that keeps doing the same stupid stuff over and over and over again. And then they're like, I'm not going to do it again, but I'm going to do, you know, I promise I'm going to change my ways. And you're like, okay, show me. And they haven't shown you yet. And they're just telling you they're going to do it.
Sure.
That's a good example, because it's like, what I hear from you right now is good. And that makes me feel better that you really feel bad about what you did and you're going to change your ways. That's we're at a good place right now. So that's to John's point. My point too is I'm like, prove it, because it still feels like you just got caught and you're just telling me right now that it's going to be good, you promise, based on sort of some recent events. And it kind of makes me picture like almost like a skit, like a reporter being like trying to get information from, you know, Disney or Lucasfilm, and every time he like thinks he gets a clear answer, he starts to write it down, and then there's like something else, like, so the Rey movie is next. Yes. No, wait. And then it's like, it's not next. No, Mandalorian and Grogu.
The way I feel about it,
it's like,
and I'm honestly the way I feel about it, and I want Brian to do a Photoshop of this, is I feel like I'm in therapy with Lucasfilm, and my therapist is Bob Iger, and I'm like, look, you said you were going to do these things, and you haven't followed through on them. And they're like, don't worry, Lacey, I promise this time I'm going to do it. And I'm like, okay, this is our relationship right now that you have been building towards, that you need to keep up with. And Bob Iger's like, look, you said you're going to do this movie. Are you going to do it? That's
this conversation is so perfectly. This is the state of Star Wars. This is where we're at.
Well, here's the thing though. I'm not talking about a pie bet. I will let both of you smash me in the face with a pie if a Jon Favreau Mandalorian movie doesn't make it into theaters. There's no return, whether it does happen.
I think it's going to happen.
So, and that's my point though. Like, I know it's been like, we are in rocky waters and we're not sure what's going to happen. Patty Jenkins, we have a Christmas list of things that just didn't happen.
Oh,
it's over there. It's on the wall.
Patty. I forgot about Patty.
I forgot about Dre. He was making a movie, I bet. We forgot about everybody. But with the Favreau thing, if this movie was exactly the same and all they said was Dave Filoni's directing it or someone else is directing it, I would have been like, we'll see. We'll see if it happens. Wait till we're rolling. But because it's Jon Favreau and this is his baby from the start, and he is one of the most successful directors working today, I am 100% confident in this particular project. So
based on the quality or the believability of the announcement, it's not like they were saying, you know, Godzilla -1 director will be doing a Dexter Jetster movie next year, you know, and it's like, okay, that sounds neat and I'm excited. It's an officially announced thing, but like, it doesn't sound as confident as saying Mandalorian and Grogu, Jon Favreau, and that's a solid bet, you know.
If Favreau
feel better about that one than others, you know. Yeah,
even with his resume, and we are going to get to the super chats in just a second, but even with his resume, if he had not done any Star Wars yet and he was announced to do this, I would say it's fair to say we'll see what happens because it's Lucasfilm. But because he created this, it just adds more concrete stability to it. But let's check in with the state of Star Wars on these super chats.
Yes. So first off, we have Christian Morales. What up, Christian? AKA Chris, AKA Christian. What up? He said, the state of Star Wars is easily my favorite episode series. I can't hang, but I wanted to at least show face. Keep up the great work. TRB kicks A. Parenthesis. Glad you're doing better, James. See you around. We'll see you around, man.
Thanks, Christian. Appreciate it, buddy.
Chris,
Chris
is a general, but his name on our Patreon is Admiral. It's like, you did make up your mind, dude. Like,
what's your name? What's your title?
What is your name? What's your title? Nobody knows, man.
Thanks, buddy.
You say you like Resistance, then you dress up like the Empire. I just don't get it. I just
love your chopper pick.
Yeah.
The next super chat is from Freezy. Hey, man, it wouldn't be a show without you, but it is a question, so I'm going to hold it till the end.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you very much.
We see you, Freezy.
Thank you both for those super chats. All right, so movies. You know, we got into it about Favreau. The Rey movie. You know, my only thoughts on that is I'm over the vague excitement. So until they start giving us real nuggets of what this is going to be about beyond the premise that Kathleen Kennedy put out about a new Jedi Order and a new threat to stop it or whatever. I'm not saying
I'm really excited.
Yeah.
It's
like
happening.
I wouldn't have come back if the story wasn't great.
Story's so good.
$12.5 million, but
you said it, not me.
Now, hey, I mean, let's be honest, you know. But this one is one even though I feel like they have to be careful with how they handle Daisy Ridley because she is sort of the new Luke Skywalker for this young generation of Star Wars fans. It would be a massive failure if this went under, because then I don't know if you can come back from that, because this is supposed to be her movie, her continuation. She's the one now. It's not here's this new character, but we also have Han, Luke, Leia, and everyone else. It's no, the training wheels are off. You're the show now. It's your show. If this stumbles and this doesn't happen, I don't see how she would come back. So it's very important for them to make sure this movie comes to light. And I know people who are our age or older are like, who cares? You know, whatever, this character. But it's like, we're not the future. The kids who were 5 when TFA came out, who are now going to be teenagers, to go see this movie and rally their friends and be on social media and whatever the next social media app is that I won't even touch. They are the ones who are going to be carrying the box office on this. So it is very important for that movie to succeed and to come out and not be, you know, have any issues. So I'm a little worried about this one. I hope they're able to stick the landing. So I don't know, how do you guys feel right now about the Rey movie with as little as we know about it? Because I'm just tired of hearing all the vague stuff. I need some concrete stuff at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I won't feel good about it until they're filming it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
She definitely is doing a lot of press, which makes me think, and I could be wrong on this, but this is the first. Like, if it got canceled, it would be the only Star Wars project that was announced and canceled that also had cast attached, right?
Mm-hmm. I believe so.
Because like if they announced that they were going to do Book of Boba Fett season 2, and then they said they weren't going to do it, then that would classify because we know who the cast is. But like this is the only one where I think like you can put a face more than just like a writer, a producer, or a director. I think there's actually like you have a cast member walking on stage like, I'm going to star in the next Star Wars movie, and they're talking about it in media and stuff. And for it to be as like already this is way more big than I'm trying to think of the Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron.
Yeah,
that was announced and they had a video and other stuff like that, and people were excited for it, but it still didn't even feel like it had reached that mass of like, this is happening. Steve Buscemi as much as this already has, and we don't we don't even have a title and a logo and everything for it. I think most of that comes back to the fact that Daisy is attached.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think that might be the only one that that's the case for. So, yeah.
Yeah, because the other everything else movie wise, like Sean Levy, James Mangold, everything, it's like the only ones that I feel confident about are the Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni movies, followed by the Rey movie. Like she's in the third slot of my confidence, followed by Mangold,
Lando,
and then, well, I guess Lando, but that's
a test too.
Oh, that is a good point.
That is a test. However,
yeah, I forgot about that one.
I don't know. I'm in a weird position with that because it hasn't been officially announced, but neither is Sean Levy. So
that's why I was going to say the show was happening.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
That's tough, but that's a good point. That is something that
would
do know who the cast
bad
is,
if they don't make the Lando movie. Man,
that would suck.
And here's the difference though. The one person who is attached to it is usually very standoffish about it. We're talking, we're working on it. You know,
yeah, it was his brother who was vocal,
who announced the movie thing, right? But anytime Donald has been approached about it, he's like, yeah, we'll see, we're talking, and all this other stuff. And Kathleen Kennedy's been like, it's happening. And so it's been kind of interesting back and forth between. Let me ask
you guys this question: out of the other movies besides the Rey movie and the Mando movie, which one, if you could push a button that says that's definitely happening, which director or whatever, which one do you guarantee?
Rey.
Besides Favreau,
Favreau and the Rey movie, besides those two, because we think those are slotted into dates.
Mangold, Sean Levy,
Taika
Waititi, Rian Johnson,
and Lando.
I'm
going to say Sean Levy.
Yeah, I feel like Deadpool 3 is going to like kill it.
I hope so. I've heard good things, but I mean, once you guys are good, I can read through an updated list of what's presumed to be working on for Star Wars, because I know it's a little messy.
Quickly, did I already say that I think I'm more confident in the Sean Levy than the Mangold? No, probably. I'm more confident in the Mangold. Right.
I believe you have said Mangold in the past.
Right.
I'm saying I'm more confident in Sean Levy than Mangold at this point. I think Mangold's got a lot of stuff going on.
All right. So you got a list?
Yeah. So this is according to January 25th, 2024. This is from IGN, to give a source. So upcoming this year is Star Wars Skeleton Crew TV series, Star Wars The Acolyte TV series, Star Wars The Bad Batch, which we already know, Star Wars Tales of the Jedi, Star Wars Andor Season 2, Star Wars Ahsoka Season 2.
Not this year.
It says possibly 2024 in parentheses for Andor. It says
it won't be, but
I'm just reading what it says. So then we have Ahsoka Season 2, parenthesis in development. And then now we're getting into the in development stuff. So we have Ahsoka Season 2, Taika Waititi Star Wars, James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi movie, Dave Filoni's Mandoverse New Republic movie, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy's New Jedi Order movie, Jon Favreau's The Mandalorian and Grogu movie, Star Wars Rogue Squadron movie, status unknown, parenthesis. The Mandalorian Season 4, Book of Boba Fett Season 2, status unknown. Star Wars Lando movie, status unknown. Star Wars Rangers of the New Republic, presumed canceled. Unentitled J.D. Dillard Matt Owens movie, presumed canceled. Rian Johnson's Star Wars trilogy, presumed canceled. Kevin Feige Star Wars movie, canceled. I love that I'm doing this. People on audio can't see. I'm making parentheses.
Yeah, just making parentheses.
David Benioff and DB Weiss Star Wars movies canceled. So that's where we're at. This doesn't mention, by the way, I'm going to throw this out there, IGN, get it together. Doesn't mention Visions or any Lego stuff or Droid Story, which is presumed canceled.
Yeah. Droid Story.
JD Dillard said they like it didn't work out. So
I think that's why they're saying presumed.
I think
I don't know what the difference between canceled is presumed.
How do we do like you did parentheses? Do I do this to cross out presumed? Just go like that.
Yeah.
All right.
So
unreleased deleted scenes with Matt as Palpatine.
Yeah. So what's coming this year is Skeleton Crew, Acolyte, Bad Batch, Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah.
I think I'm most excited for Skeleton Crew, to be honest, followed by Acolyte. That's just me.
Cool. I'm flipped on that. I think I'm
Me too.
Acolyte and then Skeleton Crew. I'm excited for both though. I really am.
Of course.
Yeah. Acolyte, I feel like is gonna benefit from subdued hype because people like aren't talking about it enough where general Star Wars fans are catching it. I bet a lot of people, if I ask my brother, he probably has no idea it exists. And then I think when it comes out, it's going to be visually great because it's actual sets and all that location stuff. But also, I think based on the footage we saw at Celebration, it just looks legit. And I like the cat and mouse element that they're doing, the detective story, and it's focusing on the Sith. It's just a very intriguing thing, and I think it's laying in the weeds, and it's going to sort of be like how people felt about maybe Andor. You know, people didn't talk a lot about Andor, then it came out and people loved it. So I'm very interested about the Acolyte, and I hope we get a trailer by like May 4th on that, because I don't think they're going to overlap that show with Bad Batch, so I don't think that's coming out until
they did
least
for Andor.
Summer.
Yeah, I don't know.
They did that for Andor, if you remember. There was, I think like 3 weeks maybe, where there were episodes of a live action TV show coming out at the same time as Bad Batch.
Did they? Okay.
And I was like stuck because I was like, can you guys do these? Because I'm like having to watch both.
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting, but I think we'll get. I don't think neither of you think we're getting any kind of like Super Bowl live action Star Wars promotion, right?
Depends how much money Disney wants to spend.
And I mean an isolated. This is a trailer for this,
right,
not a Disney Plus thing that shows a lightsaber for 6 seconds.
That's what I think will happen, actually. I do think that Disney Plus will run an ad for the Super Bowl, and in that Super Bowl, it'll show like, hey, new year, this is what's coming, and that will probably be, there will actually probably be a live action shot of both Acolyte and Skeleton Crew.
I agree with James, and John's not going to like my reasoning because I think that they're going to market for the Super Bowl because Taylor Swift's going to be there. And Taylor Swift has, over the course of her being a part of the NFL, has raised like $333.5 million worth
like
of advertising.
Something million, yeah.
So if they're trying to get that audience, which is young girls, young people, and women, they're going to advertise during the time that Taylor's there.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, the Super Bowl needs it because the ratings are terrible for the Super Bowl.
I mean, they've already talked, this is obviously separate, but they've already talked about Taylor like performing next year at the Super Bowl. So we will see.
Performers, I could be wrong, but I think the performers pay to do the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Yeah, they don't get paid to do it.
Yeah. I'm kidding. Obviously the Super Bowl ratings are insane every year, but yeah, that's interesting. That's certainly possible. Yeah, I'm curious to see what they do with that. But what else in Star Wars that we want to touch on here before we get to some Ask the Resistance?
I do have a list of books. We have quite a few books coming out that range from young adult to short story collection, High Republic, Essential Legends collection, art book.
We were sent a book too, weren't we?
Just today, I think. Yeah.
Today we were asked to be sent a book, yes, which we were working on. But middle grade novel and much more. So we have things starting in February, coming out March, April, May, June, August, September. And I could read through them if you want, or if there's a certain topic you want to discuss, maybe High Republic.
Is this the end of High Republic?
We're in
This
phase 3, so I don't know if there's more phases. They've never said that there isn't, but they haven't said that there is.
I'm gonna need a crash course, like
because of all. Yeah, I mean, there's some good books out there, like including the timeline stuff that Clayton worked on. That book has a pretty good, like, straightforward, like, this happened, this happened, this happened,
but only up until phase 2, I imagine.
Like, yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah. So
yeah. Yeah, when it comes to the High Republic stuff, it really, they've put so much into that it almost does feel like there's a little bit of an empty place for the rest of the books. But we've been getting those books for so long. It's fine to take a breather from them for a long time. But when we've been in High Republic mode for so long, it does kind of feel like, man, where's our book about, like, Luke Skywalker doing thing, or where's our book about Obi-Wan and Anakin on an adventure when he was a teenager, or something. Like, it kind of makes you miss that a little bit. I guess you could say I'm excited to get back to it, but I also don't want to run into that thing where for the next 40 years we've been writing so many stories about Luke Skywalker that it's impossible for him to have even lived this many adventures,
Right, right.
Yeah. So it is cool when they take breaks and they do, like, the High Republic and stuff. It's just, it got, like, the book stuff for me, man, got so heavy. I just couldn't do it anymore.
I do have to kind of correct a little bit what I had said, because I was reading dates from when things are coming out. A lot of the books coming out this year are reprints, novel reprints.
Oh, so,
okay. New book wise, they have the Glass Abyss, which is the Mace Windu book coming out from Stephen Barnes.
That is a cool cover.
Yep. So they're doing reprints of, like, Dark Disciple, A New Dawn, Catalyst, a Rogue One novel, Rogue One, a Star Wars story reprint. They do have the High Republic Temptation of the Force coming out. Another reprint of the Lando Calrissian adventures. But yeah, there's a ton of stories coming out, and they're doing a reprint of the Queen series with Padme paperback box set. It's just, there's so much, like John was saying, it's hard to keep up with it all. And personally, I know John feels this way, is that I love the art ones the most.
Yeah.
Because I like to see the progression of the story and production with like The Mandalorian and the movies especially. So I really hope that once we do get these new movies and shows, like The Acolyte would be so epic, of, like, how they came up with these concepts and, like, where the story started, when, and ended up. Because oftentimes we see these really cool things in the art books that don't make it into the movie or make it into a different movie, and we have reference to that, which is always super cool.
Yeah, and it's your own little, like, Easter egg in a way. But I love the art books. I love the making of books. Obviously, the old school Rinsler ones, but things that they've come out with since. The nonfiction Star Wars stuff, specifically things that give you insight into how they made these things, that's my bread and butter for Star Wars books. I for whatever reason, I've always had a hard time reading fictional Star Wars stories. I don't know why. I need to see Star Wars. That's just how I've been. Yeah, so we talked toys, we talked shows, we talked movies, we talked books. Now, what do we say we hear from the Resistance a little bit?
We didn't really talk about video games.
Oh, right. Didn't something come out about Outlaws? They have a trailer coming or something like that? Am I wrong on that? I thought
I'm not sure about that.
The one thing that I want to say about video games is that the Jedi series has just been so unbelievably well received among Star Wars fans, but among video game fans as well. Mm-hmm. And I think we can all hope that something like Outlaws is going to do the same. But video games are almost kind of hard to talk about because they take so long to develop. They almost like give us clues about the games further out than the actual release, than maybe even like the movies. They're like, we're doing this game, and then we don't hear about anything until like a couple months before the game comes out, and then it's just like everywhere. But the thing about video games too, especially like the Battlefront games, because they're replayable, people just play them and play them and play them and play them and play them. And a lot of times, once you wear out the initial players, you get to like a core audience that's just like consistently playing that game until the next one comes out. And so it's like that the Star Wars gaming community like is always constant, but they're not looking for something new. They're just constantly playing the same thing over and over and over again. And I think that the Fallen Order, or well, I should say the Jedi series, is so well received. I can't possibly imagine them not doing more. And I also can't possibly imagine them not going live action somehow with that character. It really makes me wonder, it makes me wonder, they've put a lot into High Republic, but I can almost see, I'm like, okay, but we kind of want to keep that here. But video games do such a good job at feeling like live action. And when you're playing those characters, you are so invested in the trajectory of that character's story, because you're not watching that person walk to that rock or that door or whatever. You are pushing the button. You're choosing whether he goes left, right, or walks right through that door. And so when things happen to those characters, people feel personally invested in them. So I think that the video game audience who really likes those games would support and watch and be so invested in any television show that comes to Disney Plus, or a movie that comes to theaters. And that's outside of the general Star Wars fans, people who liked the game because it was great. Like Mass Effect, if they make a Mass Effect movie, they would go see it, they don't have to watch all Star Wars stuff. That's an audience that they can pull in because they've already tapped into it so well in the video game world. I have high hopes for Star Wars video games to do more like that, and then use that as a platform to jump into more bigger audience.
Yeah, I can give a quick
Movies and
update
TV.
from GamesRadar.com did a list of the upcoming Star Wars games. Every new Star Wars game announced so far. And this is as of January 10th of this year. So we have Star Wars Outlaws, which has not been released yet. It is supposed to be released this year. No release date yet. It's from Ubisoft. We have Star Wars Hunters, which
has been pushed back.
Yes, which
multiple
does not
times.
have a release date yet. It's for Nintendo Switch, Android, iOS. We have Respawn Star Wars FPS game, which has not been announced when it's coming out, but just been revealed in January 2022. We have Respawn Star Wars strategy game, which has not been announced yet, date-wise. We have Star Wars Eclipse, which has been pushed back. It was first announced in 2021 and then was delayed.
Might as well call it a Rian Johnson game.
Yeah. Knights of the Old Republic remake is to be announced. People are looking forward to that. We have Amy Hennig's Star Wars game, which is another game that has been discussed, but is in the works from Skydance New Media in collaboration.
Can we go
with
back one more?
Games. Sure. Go back to Knights of the Old Republic.
Yes, because what was the status you put it as? Waiting to be announced?
Waiting to be announced, yeah.
So my understanding of that is that it already has been announced, then it was canceled, and then the place that we're at right now is the people that were working on it were like, hey, there may still be hope with this, and sort of gave like an answer like, wait and see, because there may be
like
some
that's been
announcement.
KOTOR forever.
So
I know.
What they said was there's a brief teaser revealed so far. We don't have a release date, and a recent report from Bloomberg claimed that the project has been delayed indefinitely.
Oof.
I think that's where we're currently at, except for the fact that somebody, I don't know, president of so-and-so or whatever, has also stated like, stay tuned because that might not be dead.
Which do you guys know which of the Star Wars games is going to be the open world one? Which is like the GTA
Outlaws.
type? That's Outlaws, where you like go anywhere you want?
That's my understanding.
It should be that, yeah.
Oh, all right. That's
Kind of
cool.
like a make your own adventure type thing.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean,
Yeah.
and to be clear, GTA has a story, so it will still have a story, but
You can
Yeah,
still
but
bop around.
you will
Yeah.
probably be more able to kind of move around.
Yeah, so Star Wars Outlaws has been described as this open world Star Wars game is set to arrive in 2024.
there
And
you
as our first look was the incredibly impressive showcasing of a grimier look at the galaxy far, far away than we're typically accustomed to seeing. Interestingly, it also appeared to be set during the original trilogy. They said that they should get a full look of gameplay at the Ubisoft Forward 2023 on June 12th.
I want to get 5 stars on me in the Death Star or like on Canto Bight.
I think they linked to 2023, but they meant 2024. But
I was going to say that that either didn't happen or whatever, but 2024 in June, I mean, I want to see more. I mean, it looks like a game that like could be really, really cool. And again, like I said before, like Jedi, just pull people in to be like, what? It's like GTA, but it's Star Wars. Yes, sign me up. And then they'll just play it. Love the characters, love the world.
I
and
like
then
her little creature that she has.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, Eclipse looks great, but it's just not going to happen. There's just too much around it. They keep pushing it back. I mean, the last we heard was 2027 or 2028. And that just to me was just like, oh, that's it. Nail in the coffin. That's not happening.
Or they're just not
I'm
rushing
really
it.
surprised they released as much as they did, like the logo, a trailer, all this stuff. And it wasn't even, it hadn't even like started production or something. Like, how do you have that much going for you and you haven't even started? It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but for once, I actually listed out everything that's coming. So you're welcome.
Thank you.
That's good. I think about that every time and I never do it. And I'm so glad you did.
And Lacey, that list just changed as you said that. So
Did it?
Yeah, Lucasfilm
right.
just made a new announcement where no.
Okay. Do we want to get into questions?
Yeah, I think it's time for Ask the Resistance. Yeah.
Let's fire up Ask the Resistance.
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
All right. Now, Lacey, I know we had a couple of super chats before, including the one with the question. Do we want to do the other 2 super chats we got first?
Let's start with Freezy because I pushed him off first. So I feel like
all right, Freeze. So Freezy asked us, and thank you for the super chat, Freezy.
Mm-hmm.
You jumped over everybody, and also got a cool picture with Mark Hamill. He asked, when Luke looked in Ben's mind in The Last Jedi, do you think he saw him killing Han? So he's referring to the flashback of when he thought about killing Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he saw him killing Han? I'm still trying to validate Luke's behavior in that movie. TRB, you guys rule. Thank you, Freezy. That's very nice. I appreciate it. I'm not starting with this one. So one of you can start with that one.
This is a great thought. Not that, people are dying, Freezy, but it's an interesting thought in the story itself because Luke says something along the lines of, I saw him destroying everything I hold dear. That the only thing that would be his friends and his family and who he cares about. So they don't explicitly say that that's what he sees, either both in the novelization or in the movie. But I would be tempted to look back and see if there's any kind of sound design tricks there that you might hear stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because they tend to do that sneakily in the background that like, oh, they hint at it. But I would say that this is a pretty good assumption that he saw that he was going to kill Han or that he saw Leia in pain. Because it's similar to Empire Strikes Back, like the way he feels them in pain, and
I saw City in the Clouds.
Yeah, he sees glimpses of what could happen. It's basically a callback to that. So I would say yes. I don't see why not. And I think that if they don't explicitly say it, you can definitely lean towards this or hint at it or assume.
Mm-hmm.
Man, yeah, I was gonna say no, but Lacey kind of convinced me. Considering like the way that they would do something like that, or the way that they would sort of envision it, especially with Rian Johnson coming off of the Force Awakens, he could sort of explain, like in his mind when he's writing this, like he was standing over Ben and all this, and I don't know, man. My reasoning for saying no, what I was gonna say was that when Rey and Chewie first show up to talk to Luke, he says, "Where's Han?" Like as if there's no he doesn't even have any sort of inkling that something bad could have happened to him. So that moment would be so surprising that anything could have happened to Han. But if he had seen it in a foreshadow or something, I feel like he would be more willing to be either defending of it. I always sort of took it just like he didn't see anything specific, though Lacey was convincing me. I always took it as like he understood darkness and evil, and he's like, oh my gosh, that's bad. And not necessarily like visions of the future, but you might be right on that.
I'm gonna co-sign what Lacey said. I think that was a good answer, but
it could be what Ray had, where so many things flash at once that he just doesn't remember. But you never know.
Yeah, and it could have just been an overall sense of darkness too, which was my initial thought. But I mean, I'm cool to lean that way. But on the flip side, to your point, James, he could have been like, "Where's Han?" As in saying, like, "I was right." Like, oh my god.
Yeah, I also considered that too. Like he's like
wait a minute, where's Han? Oh my god, the premonition.
Like if I had a dream that like someone close to me died in a car wreck, and then the next day all my friends come in except for that person, and they should be there, I'd be like, where's that person? Like, you know, like having a moment reaction to it. So maybe my reasoning for saying no might actually give more reason to yes. So good thought.
Very interesting and a great question. Thank you, Freezy. All right, super chats. Am I reading these?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
All right. David Ford, son of Harrison, chimes in. Thank you, David Ford. Thank you, David Ford. Said, kicked out of Five Guys for sitting there and just eating peanuts. Told them all about TRB while they escorted me out. Thank you so much.
You wild, David. You wild for that one.
He is wild. Another David, this one of the Probus variety, chimes in. Thank you very much, David. If you are a patron of TRB, we did a podcast with David over there on our Patreon. So head to our Patreon and check it out. We had some nice, fun, and spicy discussions with our man here. And he said, my TRB fam, James, glad you're doing better.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be doing better myself.
And now let's get into some questions. We're going to start off with Kenny Craley. And Kenny said, hey, TRB, love you guys and your content. Thank you, Kenny. And he said, my question is, do you think it was a good move to this day by Lucasfilm in 2014 to de-canonize the expanded universe and become legends? Kenny, it was never canon. And that's it. Unfortunately. Yeah, George Lucas, there was even that video still going that makes the rounds a lot about Filoni clarifying that George Lucas never saw that as canon. So they renamed it Legends, but it was always this like these tall tales that are not really part of the canon story. Doesn't mean they're not great, but that's how it is being understood. But thank you, Kenny. Appreciate it.
I wonder if retroactively, if a better way for them to have come out on stage, I don't know if they even said it on stage, or this whatever the press release was or whatever, and they said, and from now on, the only things that are going to be canon are what is typically considered G canon, and everything that Disney puts out from now on will also be considered G canon.
What's G?
Which would not George canon. That's like that was the one that was at the upper tier of the expanded universe, because there were all these different tiers. So there was like, if I'm not mistaken, I don't actually know for sure, but it was like S canon, A canon, B canon, D canon, you know, and it's sort of like this thing. But there was the top tier one, which was G canon, which was if George worked on it or whatever. I know it's dumb, but what I'm saying is, and they, what I'm saying is,
I know
what
it's
they
dumb,
said,
but hear me out.
I mean, I understand the purpose of it, because they wanted to tell stories that didn't match with other canon, but they were like, well, we can do it. So we'll tell the stories, but but fans are going to write out like how they think things fit together. But what was upsetting to everybody is they sort of stated it as all of that other stuff, not real anymore, doesn't count. And what they probably should have said is that everything that we put out is going to fall within this canonical system.
I just think Dave Filoni
stuff
painted it very clear.
Is still not canon to our canon, but is still a real thing, and we're not dismissing it.
Why are we doing this when it's just, hey, just to be clear, never canon, still not canon. Onward we go. How about that?
I just think that makes people mad, and it did.
Well, it's the truth, though. It came from George Lucas. I mean, what are people mad about?
Right.
I want to blame Disney for it, but that means they're falsely informed. It's George Lucas. It wasn't Disney. Disney did not erase anything. Yeah. George Lucas just never acknowledged it as his canon. I don't understand why people.
And he hates Mara Jade, which people don't like to talk about.
They don't like that either. Yeah. All right, let's get on to Semper Fi Danny, who asked, we'll do two more, including this one. Will Lucasfilm be brave and pair Rey with someone romantically? If Finn, Poe, Ben, or otherwise, if she is remaking the Jedi Order, is it time to allow relationships going forward? I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think they should.
Enough? Yeah. Will they be brave enough?
I think they should. I don't think there's any reason why Rey shouldn't be able to find love or have love in her life.
Right.
I think Star Wars as a whole needs more romance. I think Hollywood as a whole needs more romance, but we'll get back to that later. I think romance is something that is completely underutilized and is an easy moneymaker for a lot of studios. You have celebrities, including Daisy Ridley herself, when she left Star Wars, saying that she wanted to do a rom-com. Like, that wanted to be her first project out of Star Wars. So I don't know why they have been kind of moving away from that. And I agree with John when he often says that Solo should have leaned into the romance between Kira and Han more, which they did not do. I'm going to say yes. I think they will pair Rey with someone romantically. I don't want it to be Finn or Poe, because I just think that they're buddies, and I not that they can't be paired, because if they were, I'd probably love it. I just currently can't picture that, because I think that they have a very kind of like family relationship, and they're like her buddies. But I don't understand why they couldn't pair her with someone new. I think that would be a great way to introduce a new character into Rey's story. To have a romance.
It's 15 years later. Like we may like start this movie where she's like already well into this relationship. It doesn't have to be like she meets this person in this movie.
100%. And I also am one of the people that strongly believes, which came up at our London celebration panel, which I didn't even consider, which is Rey could have a family.
Right.
That is a total another possibility.
That would be a cool awesome surprise to save for the movie. Like, hide it in the trailers and then start off the movie where these kids run up and hug Rey and we're all like, whoa.
I'd love that. I'd really love that. So Danny and Mark, because I know Mark is watching as well. Hey, Mark. I would say that, yes, I think they will be brave enough to do it. And I think that her way of remaking the Jedi Order doesn't have to be a one-on-one thing. Like, I'm a Jedi, I can't have any relationships, attachment's bad. I think what we've learned is that's not the case necessarily. And that they can allow for relationships moving forward, and that it's actually healthy to have love and support in your life.
Well,
man, this one's tricky for me, because I feel very opposite from the usual fan, which makes me think that this question is sort of flawed, in the sense that, will Lucasfilm be brave and pair Rey with someone romantically? I think that's the easy thing. I think that's exactly what they're going to do. I think the question would be, will Lucasfilm be brave and stick to George's idea of what a Jedi is? So I think that they probably will go this route, and they'll probably give her a family and a romantic partner and all this other stuff. And I feel like that's not the way I'd like to see it, but it seems very like reading the room, reading the fan base. This is what fans want, and that's probably the direction that they'll go. Yeah. But I think to me, what feels more right, or would feel more brave, is to, what did he say?
He said Jedi are boring. Remember when he says it all the time? He says the Jedi are boring, and then people get mad in the comments and they're like, John, Jedis aren't boring.
Nobody's calling Obi-Wan Kenobi to hang out. Come on.
All I'm saying is within the story, and I don't mean to cut you off, James, within the story, when Rey has kids and or a love interest, it adds more risk for her.
Yeah.
There's something coming. If she has children involved, she's going to work harder and, get involved again to save whatever she needs to save. And I don't
give a different perspective on Rey too.
Yeah, I just feel like as a whole, I said it before, I'll say it again, like Hollywood is not leaning into romance enough. And I think that that's a very basic human nature thing, that we all want to be loved and supported and be part of a community, but like more than that, like find our other person. And I think that they aren't doing that enough. But James, I understand what you're saying, where that is what the Jedi are. That's what George pictured, is like there are no attachments. So why would you then move away from that? So it's tricky.
To be clear, I do want more romance in Star Wars. I'm like 100%. They need to do that. They've been missing it. As a podcast, I think the three of us have been very aware of that and pushing that for a while now. I want there to be romance in this movie and all the other movies. That's great. I'm just a little bit tied to some, like, not like it belongs to me, like the Jedi religion or I'm a Jedi or anything along those lines. But it does make me feel like, hey, if you're going to be a Jedi, then don't break the rules.
Sure.
Don't change the rules. Because, and it doesn't even feel like I mean, there could be an argument, and I'd be down with that. She wants belonging in a family and all this other stuff. I actually do sort of understand that, but it feels to me like the reason we're sort of changing this is because of a fan base decision of like people thinking, Anakin would have been so much better if he just would have been allowed to have the relationship with Padme. And I'm like, I don't think that's right. But I don't think that's the thing that like really caused all the problems. So
now we're getting
that's me personally. Yeah.
All right, cool. Let us go to our last one by Tom Favada. Hey, Tom. Tom said, do you think Lucasfilm would hold any cards from the fandom on movie development to create hype? Now, I assume he means keep us in the dark.
Hold any projects back. Like if they have them out on a desk, they're putting one to the side.
To create hype?
Like, do you think they'd hold any projects to to get people excited? Do you think they're holding on
like
to
keep
anything?
something secret, film it, and then like put it out as a big thing? Like, boom, this is coming next year.
I can tell you they do that all the time. That's how they operate.
Yeah, I feel like that's like part of their problem, actually. It's, so
and that's not just them. That's Disney. Disney likes to do that.
I hope they go back to, the old school ways, not necessarily like the original Star Wars, where the novelization came out literally before the movie came out, or Mark Hamill sharing his script with his roommates, or that sort of thing.
I recently also found out too, the Revenge of the Sith video game came out before the movie.
Yes, and had an alternate ending. And
what?
But that we sort of know how that story was ending, so that's a bit different.
Know,
but
it was like,
but Revenge of the Sith filming, they had a camera on set that fans who were part of the buy-in on StarWars.com were able to like watch them do stuff. I think they need to be a little more transparent with the fandom, because like with anything, info is going to get out there one way or the other. They need to control that. And I think you're not like, I understand they love the theatrics of the reveal and the surprise and all that stuff, but you can pull it back a bit and let fans in a bit more to create that hype. So Tom, I guess my answer is, I think it will create more hype by giving fans more nuggets of information, so that 1, we're not creating false expectations as a fandom. 2, we're not getting information from other sources, non-official sources, that may or may not be true, which will alter our perception and our expectations. Feed us a bit. Tell me what the premise of the Rey movie is. Tell me who's in it before I get it from discussing film or whatever, So I think to create hype in this day and age, control it yourself and release certain amounts of information more than you had in the past. How about that?
Yeah, that's fair.
I want exactly what John said, except I don't want it right now. I want Lucasfilm and Disney to be confident, get their head on straight, know exactly what they're doing first, then start giving us that information and letting us in and showing us how the production is going and all this other stuff. Because if they did it now, I feel like we'd be even more aware of projects that are getting picked up and canceled and all sorts of other stuff.
Right.
And I want them to just know their place, know exactly what they're doing, feel very confident. And then when they start working on that thing, see it through, follow through, and let us in on the process.
Yeah. Anything else on that one?
Lacey? No.
All right. That brings us to the end of the show. So we want to thank everybody for listening and watching and being a part of the Resistance. Whether you joined us live, thank you for contributing to the show, being a part of the chat and having a good time. Or if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, I saw somebody tell us that they were Joe Ritchie. He said he was cleaning his house while he was listening to TRB. So you're welcome, Ritchie family. We were there to help Joe along. But thank you all so much, however you take in TRB. And don't forget, we do have additional content on our Patreon. If you want to support TRB, it starts at $5 a month. Go to patreon.com/resistance broadcast. That's patreon.com/resistance broadcast. Sign up. We are just starting some planning behind the scenes of where we are moving forward. And we have a lot of cool stuff on there, including bonus episodes. We have polls, poll discussions, bonus questions, commentaries, a lot of stuff on our Patreon. So go check it out and support the show. We appreciate it very, very much. And spread the word. That's the best way for us to grow. Big shout out before we get out of here to our Patreon generals and spice runners: Carmelo, John Risi, Jetta Rosewater, Frank Grande, Nick Kratz, Chris Morales, Brian Smith, Matt Chitty, Danny, Mike Rumore, Brennan McLaughlin, Sneaky Zebra, Colin Cormier, and Dave Hornack. And the Spice Runners: David Probus, Neil Shaw, Kendall Gelner, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, and the Fortworthian. Thank you all so much. Social media, me, Johnny Hoey, on X, and I'm trying to dabble in Blue Sky and Threads, but also follow us at TRB Podcasts, of course. And I have Movie Pod, just like the movies, on audio platforms. Lacey, what do you got?
People can find me on social media at Lacey Gilleran and on TikTok at It's Lacey Gilleran, talking about Star Wars and probably rom-coms, and Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce, who are now going to the Super Bowl. Well, one of them is. One of them will be in the stands.
Yeah, with or without a shirt. James, how about you?
You can find me on social media at Myra Trunks.
All right, everybody. We hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we'll be back with you on Monday, where we're going to do a draft of underrated Star Wars performances. So stew on that. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next time right here on the Resistance broadcast. See you around, kids.